Wow, this was really something.
Yeah, it's a doozy.
This deep dive looks like a typical true crime story at first. Serial killer guy gets convicted, dies in prison.
Yeah, seems open and shut.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you sent me this Wikipedia article, and it's like, wait a minute. There might be a whole lot more to this Billy Glaze case.
Yeah, there's some pretty serious questions about whether he was actually guilty.
Like maybe even a wrongful conviction.
Yeah, exactly. Wrongful conviction.
Okay, so before we get into all that, let's back up a bit, make sure everyone listening is up to speed.
Sounds good.
Who was Billy Glaze?
Well, his real name was Billy Richard Glaze,
Okay.
born in 43.
Okay.
And he actually used a bunch of different names, too.
Like what?
Like Jesse Coulter, Jesse Sitting Crow.
Interesting.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if maybe he was trying to stay under the radar or something.
Yeah, definitely suspicious.
Right.
So how did he first end up in trouble with the law?
His first run-in with the law was back in 1974
Okay.
in Texas. He was convicted of rape.
Okay, so serious offense, but then
Yeah, but then
years later,
it gets much worse.
he's suspected of murdering 3 Native American women in Minneapolis.
That's right. 3 murders between 1985 and 1987.
Wow, that's a huge escalation.
Yeah, for sure.
So what connected him to these murders?
Well, 2 main things.
Okay.
First, a waitress in Minneapolis.
Uh-huh.
She recognized him.
Oh, wow.
And she contacted the police, saying, hey, this guy Glaze, he's been around here.
So they put him in the area of the murders?
Exactly.
Okay, and the second thing.
His girlfriend at the time.
Uh-huh.
She gave the police some info that pointed them to New Mexico.
Trying to get away.
Seems like it, right?
Okay, so the police are on his trail.
Mm-hmm.
What leads to his actual arrest?
It was actually kind of a random thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he got busted for DUI in August of 87
Okay.
and also violating his parole from that Texas case.
Oh, right.
But here's the thing.
What?
When they searched his truck, they found a bloody shirt, a crowbar, and a nightstick.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Not good.
That sounds like a pretty clear sign, right?
Yeah, you'd think so. And then to make things even worse for him,
Yeah.
they tested hair samples from that crowbar,
Okay.
and they used that to link him to the murders.
But you mentioned DNA evidence earlier.
Right.
Did they test the hair for DNA back then?
That's a good question. But back then, the technology wasn't as advanced.
Oh, okay.
So they could tell the hair seemed to come from Glaze, but it wasn't like a definite match.
I see.
And that's where things get really interesting years later.
Okay, I'm all ears.
So fast forward to 2009, the Innocence Project takes on Glaze's case.
I've heard that they help people who've been wrongfully convicted.
Exactly. They do amazing work.
So what do they find?
They did all sorts of DNA testing, on evidence from the crime scenes, including a rape kit from one of the victims.
Right.
And get the semen they found in the kit.
Yeah.
It wasn't Billy Glaze's.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it didn't match him at all. So if it wasn't his, whose was it?
Well, that's the crazy part.
What?
The DNA matched another guy.
What, another guy?
Yeah, and he was already in prison for rape in Minnesota.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just that they didn't have enough evidence to convict Glaze.
No.
They had evidence that pointed to someone else entirely.
Exactly.
Unbelievable.
But it gets even crazier.
Correct.
In 2014, they tested DNA from a cigarette butt.
Okay.
Found near the body of another one of the victims.
Okay.
And guess what? It matched the same guy from the rape kit.
You got it.
That's incredible. So 2 separate pieces of evidence pointing to this other guy.
Mm-hmm.
But did they ever find any of Billy Glaze's DNA at any of the crime scenes?
That's the thing. They tested dozens of pieces of evidence.
Okay.
And not a single trace of Glaze's DNA.
Oh my God. So they have this other guy's DNA and nothing from Glaze.
It's pretty mind-blowing.
Well, did they just let Glaze go then?
Well, no, it's not that simple, unfortunately.
Oh.
Glaze's lawyers, they filed for a new trial.
They said, look, we have this new DNA evidence.
Right.
And there are also some big problems with the eyewitness testimony from the original trial.
It sounds like a strong case.
Yeah, definitely.
So what happened?
Well, the Hennepin County Attorney's Office, they took it seriously.
Yeah.
They reopened the investigation in 2014.
Wow. So it sounds like Glaze might actually have gotten a chance to clear his name.
Yeah, you would think so, right?
It sounds promising, right? Like he finally might have a chance to prove he was innocent.
You'd think.
But then he died in prison in 2015 before they could even have a new trial.
Yeah, it's really sad, actually.
What happened?
He had stage 4 lung cancer.
Oh, wow.
And he died at 72.
So he spent like over 25 years in prison.
Yeah, over 25 years.
For crimes he may not have even committed.
It's really tragic.
It really makes you think,
Yeah.
about all those what ifs.
Yeah, how many other people are in that same situation?
Exactly. And it makes you question the whole system.
All right.
But before we get too deep into that, I think we should take a moment to think about the victims in this case.
Absolutely.
We've been so focused on Billy Glaze and all the legal stuff.
Right.
But these were real women with families who lost their lives.
Tragically.
And now, to think that the wrong person might have been convicted.
Yeah, that's got to be just devastating for them.
It's unimaginable.
Yeah.
To know that the real killer might still be out there.
I can't even imagine.
So what happens now? I mean, the case was reopened back in 2014.
Right.
But that was years ago. Is there any news about what's going on with it?
Unfortunately, there's not a lot of information available.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they tend to keep things pretty quiet.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense. Got to protect the investigation and all that.
Exactly.
But it's got to be frustrating for the families, just waiting for answers.
Yeah, definitely.
And cold cases are notoriously difficult to solve.
They are. It's like trying to put together a puzzle where half the pieces are missing.
Exactly. Witnesses might have moved away or died. Memories fade. Evidence deteriorates.
It's tough.
But maybe with all the advances in DNA technology, there's still a chance they can find the truth.
Oh, absolutely. DNA technology has come a long way.
Yeah, remember how it was DNA that pointed to Glaze's potential innocence in the first place?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what's so amazing about it.
So maybe they're using some new techniques to re-examine the evidence.
Yeah, they could be doing all sorts of things now.
Like maybe even trying to identify the man whose DNA they found at the crime scenes.
That's possible.
It's like they're building a whole new case from scratch.
Pretty much, yeah.
Do you think they were looking back at those old witness statements too?
Oh, I'm sure they are going over everything with a fine-tooth comb.
Maybe there was something they missed the first time around.
Yeah, or maybe some detail that seemed insignificant back then.
Right.
Could be crucial now.
It's amazing to think about how much things have changed in forensics.
Yeah, it's a whole different world now.
So it makes me wonder what we can do as, everyday citizens.
Yeah.
The investigation is ongoing, but is there anything we can do to help make sure justice is served?
Well, I think one of the most important things is to raise awareness about these kinds of cases.
Yeah.
The more people know about wrongful convictions, the more pressure there is to fix the system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We need to hold those in power accountable.
Absolutely.
And make sure everyone has access to a fair trial.
That's the goal.
And there are organizations like the Innocence Project.
Yeah, they do amazing work.
They're fighting for people who have been wrongfully convicted and pushing for changes to prevent it from happening again.
They really are making a difference.
So maybe that's something our listeners can do, support organizations like that.
Absolutely. Every little bit helps.
It's about demanding justice, not just for Billy Glaze, but for everyone who's been wrongly accused.
Right.
And, one thing that really struck me about Glaze's case is that he always maintained his innocence.
Yeah, he did.
Even when he was facing all that evidence.
It's pretty common, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in wrongful conviction cases.
Why is that?
Well, sometimes it's because they genuinely believe they didn't do it.
Okay.
They might think they were framed or the evidence is wrong.
I can see that.
And sometimes, especially for people from marginalized communities,
Uh-huh.
they might not trust the legal system
Right.
because they've experienced discrimination before.
That makes sense.
So they might maintain their innocence as a way of protecting themselves.
Wow, I hadn't thought of it like that.
It's a complex issue for sure.
So even with all the evidence pointing towards Glaze's innocence,
Yeah.
there's still one big question.
What's that?
If he didn't commit these murders,
Yeah.
then who did?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
We've uncovered a potential wrongful conviction,
Right.
but that doesn't automatically solve the original crime.
And it brings us right back to the victims' families.
Yeah.
They're still searching for answers.
Absolutely.
And justice for their loved ones.
It's heartbreaking.
It is. And it reminds us that every case, no matter how complex or seemingly resolved,
Yeah.
has real human consequences.
It does.
And those consequences can ripple outward,
Mm.
affecting not just the individuals involved,
Right.
but the whole community.
The whole community.
This case, with all its twists and turns, it really makes us think about our justice system,
Yeah.
acknowledge its flaws,
For sure.
and work towards a future where justice is truly blind.
Absolutely. Everyone deserves a fair chance.
Everyone deserves a fair chance.
Yeah.
This whole thing it really makes you think, how many other people are out there like Billy Glaze?
Yeah. Innocent people stuck in prison.
Right. It's a scary thought.
It is, and it's probably more common than we realize.
Really?
Oh, yeah. The National Registry of Exonerations,
Okay.
they've documented like over 3,000 exonerations since 1989.
Wow, that's a lot of people.
It is, and that's probably just the tip of the iceberg.
So what are the main reasons this happens?
Well, a lot of these wrongful convictions,
Ah.
they come from the same kinds of problems, you know?
What?
Like flawed eyewitness testimony or evidence that wasn't handled properly.
Right.
Even false confessions sometimes.
Wow. It's like the system itself is setting people up to fail.
Yeah, in a way.
And it seems like certain groups are more at risk than others.
Oh, absolutely.
No. Right.
People of color, especially.
Yeah.
Black and Latinx individuals, they're way more likely to be wrongfully convicted.
That's just not right.
It's a huge problem, and it's often tied to things like implicit bias and socioeconomic factors, you know, not having access to good legal representation.
So it's like this system is biased against them from the start?
Yeah, pretty much.
It's a tough reality to face.
It is, but the good news is
Right.
people are starting to pay attention to these issues.
Yeah, it feels like there's a growing movement to reform the justice system,
Definitely, there are a lot of organizations out there fighting for change.
like the Innocence Project.
Yeah, they're doing amazing work, not just on individual cases,
Right.
but also advocating for policy changes.
So they're trying to fix the system from the inside out.
Exactly.
That's encouraging to hear.
It is. It gives me hope.
Me too.
Yeah.
But it sounds like there's still a long way to go.
Oh, for sure. It's a huge undertaking.
So what needs to happen?
Well, we need to educate law enforcement about implicit bias.
Okay.
We need better public defenders for people who can't afford their own lawyers.
Right?
We need easier access to DNA testing. I mean, there's so much that needs to be done.
It sounds overwhelming.
It can feel that way, but every little bit helps.
True.
Every wrongful conviction that gets overturned,
Yeah.
every step we take towards a more just system,
It's a victory.
it is, it's all about progress.
And you mentioned forensic science earlier.
Yeah,
It seems like that's playing a huge role in exonerating people.
absolutely, especially DNA technology.
Right. But are there other advancements in forensic science that are helping to uncover the truth?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Like what?
Well, for example, there are new imaging techniques
Okay.
that can analyze things like bite marks, fingerprints, even shoe prints with incredible accuracy.
Wow. So they can get really specific.
Oh, yeah, and we have much better ballistics analysis now, too.
Ballistics.
Yeah, they can trace bullets to specific guns.
So they can tell exactly which gun fired a bullet.
Pretty much, yeah,
That's amazing. It's like they have a whole arsenal of tools now.
they do. It's
Yeah.
pretty incredible how far things have come.
But I guess technology is only part of the equation, right?
Right, you need skilled investigators who know how to use these tools properly, and you need a legal system that's willing to embrace these advancements.
Yeah, otherwise it's all for nothing.
Exactly.
You know, this deep dive into the Billy Glaze case has been really eye-opening.
It's a fascinating case for sure.
It is. And it's so much more than just a Wikipedia article. You know,
Yeah.
we've talked about wrongful convictions, systemic inequalities, the power of forensic science.
It's a lot to take in.
It is, but I keep thinking about the victims' families.
Yeah,
They've been through so much.
I know.
And now with all this uncertainty about Glaze's conviction,
Right.
it's like their search for justice has become even harder.
It's a reminder that these cases aren't just abstract legal issues.
Yeah.
They involve real people with real pain.
It's a heavy thought.
It is.
And it makes you realize that justice isn't just about legal outcomes.
No.
It's about healing and accountability
Absolutely.
and making sure the victims' voices are heard.
Exactly.
So where do we go from here? Our listeners have learned about Billy Glaze. They've learned about the problems with the justice system
Yeah.
and the potential for change.
What can they do?
Yeah, what can they do to make a difference?
Well, first of all, stay informed.
Okay.
Read about these issues. Follow organizations like the Innocence Project. Talk to your friends and family about it.
Share what you've learned.
Exactly. The more people who know about this stuff,
Yeah.
the better.
And we can support those organizations that are fighting for justice
Absolutely. Donate your time or money if you can.
and use our voices to demand change.
Write to your elected officials' protest vote.
Make a difference.
Every action counts.
It all starts with us.
It does.
This has been a real journey.
It has.
We started with a simple Wikipedia article and ended up uncovering a whole world of injustice.
But also hope.
Right, because change is possible.
It is. We just have to fight for it.
Well said. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into the Billy Glaze case.
It's been a pleasure.
And to everyone listening, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep fighting for what's right.